the Zoar Pentecost. We thought it was Tishri 6, the late Zoar Pentecost. And it all comes from Zoar First Fruits, which we thought was Tammuz 17. Our logic was that it should have been Sivan 16, which is the festival, which is the first of the week after the festival Sabbath of Zoar Cakes, the Zoar Passover being Sivan 14, 2012. And Sivan 16 was the end of the temple ratio prophecy. But it couldn't be then because it's a Jubilee, so it would have to be the next month, Tammuz 16, 2012, the late festival. But then it couldn't be then because that was a Sabbath. So then we moved it, we bumped it forward one day to Tammuz 17, but you can't do that. The only precedent in Scripture is to have a late festival a month after the earlier festival if you miss it. So there was a late Passover on ER 14 if you missed the Nisan 14 Passover. You can generalise that, but you can't just make up, oh, we'll have it on the next day then, which we did. So instead what we do is we go for the weekly Sabbath version of the first fruits. The first fruits can either be the first of the week after a weekly Sabbath or the first of the week after a festival Sabbath, because the definition of first fruits is deliberately ambiguous to permit both interpretations. So instead we take it to be the weekly Sabbath in cakes in Sivan, which was Sivan 19, first fruits. But of course we couldn't have it then because it was a Jubilee month. So we have it in Tammuz 19. And then that would be late Zoar first fruits, but it's actually when Zoar was appointed. And then you take a Pentecost count from there, inclusively, from that being the first day of the count, and the 50th day would be Elul 8, 2012, and the late Pentecost would then be, so Pentecost would be Tishri 8, 2012. Right, then you do that whole thing again in 2015, and the Sabbath was in fact Sivan 17, 2015, so the first fruits would be Sivan 18, but you're memorialising, you're annualising what actually happened in 2012 when Zoar was appointed, so you actually hold it again at the late version of that, which is Tammuz 18. So that's Zoar first fruits for this year. And then you count a Pentecost from there, inclusively, to Elul 7. And then you go to the late Pentecost, which is Tishri 7. And that is the chief, the 2 kings, 1 chief of the second 50, when fire comes from the heavens. And it is the later Pentecost of 1 Kings 18, when fire comes from the heavens. And it is the Pentecost, greater Pentecost of Acts 2, when fire comes from the heavens. And it is also the 7th trumpet of Jericho, a trumpet for a day, after the 7th Feast of Trumpets of Jesus' reign over the kingdom, which was 2015 Tishri 1. It's Tishri 7, the 7th day of the 7th month of the 7th reign or year of Jesus in the 7th millennium after Adam's sin. So that's when we now think the second and third fire signs of 2 Kings, of 1 Kings 18, which are the 2 parts of the second fire sign of 2 Kings 1, which are the violent explosion of Acts 2, which are the stone hitting both feet, the UK and the US feet of Daniel 2, and which is the end of it's also the fire coming from the heavens of Revelation 13, and it's the end of the Jericho campaign, we hope, end of our circumnavigations, and that's today. It's going to expire in about half an hour's time in this country, and I've got another 5 hours in Eastern time. Thank you.